listeners. Welcome back to Tales of Abundance. I am Dr. John Oberg. With me, as always, Randy Lorensen, my co-host. Randy.
Hey, John. It's an exciting topic today, I think. This is an interesting topic. Habits, rituals, daily routines.
Yeah, speaking of which, our habit is to say, this is an exciting topic. Like,
Yeah.
you'd never hear us like, hey, listeners, this is a crappy topic today. Stick around for the next 16 hours as we bore you to death again. Not going to happen.
Well, somebody's got to sell and market a little bit, too.
I love it.
Right.
It's our habit that
Yes.
we're saying, what an exciting topic.
Yeah.
I mean, the truth is we're excited about it, but it is a habit we have.
What's interesting to me is when I brought this up, I was like, this is a great topic because people ask me about this all the time. And in particular, people ask me about a morning routine. This is just a question I get from random people fairly frequently. And you're like, nobody ever asked me about this. So I don't know what that means. I think
I'm boring.
I'm approachable and charismatic. I don't know. I don't know what that is.
He's good looking. He's funny. Incredibly athletic.
So what, if we talk about again, it doesn't have to be a daily or a morning habit, ritual, routine, whatever you want to call it. Let's talk about why people want these. Why do they have them?
Well, I mean, we have them whether you like it or not. Like if I say, hey, Randy, how you doing today?
I'm doing great.
Yeah, you like that was usually you say fine, but yeah, I'm doing great.
Yeah.
There's these like, if I hit your knee right now, you're going to kick me. Right? We have reflexes. And so we can do these things on purpose or we can fall into them.
Right.
But whether we like it or not, we have habits.
Yeah. I think, so I'm a person who, I've made it no secret, I like change. I like new things. I like shiny objects. I like new technology. But I find immense benefit in having a daily routine, in particular a morning routine to kind of get my day going.
Yeah.
But it could also be something as simple as I go to the gym, to lift weights 3 times a week at, basically these days, this time. Right.
Look,
and run a routine when I get there.
Yeah, structure is good, right? Like the whole reason that I've created the hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of tools, not that I came up with, but that I've gathered, collected, curated over the years, is to give people a mental model. So when they have a problem, they don't start with a blank piece of paper. Like if you have a blank screen and you have a problem, like why not start with 80% or 90% of the solution in front of you? That's the great thing about mental models. We call them tools, but a lot of the things that I talk about with clients, friends, whatever, it's like, what's the best practices as they're understood broadly in this domain so that that's the beginning of the conversation versus trying to build a wheel every time you get into your car, which is the most ridiculous thing that nobody ever does. But we solve other problems like that all the time. And it just seems like a waste.
I just had a really interesting, I don't know if it's a thought, an aha moment, but now I'm curious. I'm going to run a 1-person test. So huge sample size here.
Yeah.
I just realized in having this conversation that a lot of times my routines are where I am able to, because everything is on autopilot, is where my brain is able to explore new ideas and think and be creative, whether it's about whatever it is. And maybe I'm able to listen to a podcast about something that gets the juices flowing, because if I'm lifting weights at the gym, frankly, that's boring to me. But if I can do it while I listen to a interesting podcast, it's no longer boring because I'm focused on that. And I'm thinking even as I'm making coffee in the morning as part of my routine, I'm listening to a podcast and I'm stimulating my brain. So is that just me, or is that something you do?
I think it's true that this, the whole walk and chew gum thing. Can you walk and chew gum? Sure. A lot of people can listen to podcasts while they take a walk, or they can, talk on the phone while they take a walk. And the thing the brain can't do is process 2 bits of information at precisely the same time. It can task switch back and forth quite a bit, but you've got an autonomous system, and then you've got a voluntary system, right? In terms of your nervous system. So I think, when you build something into muscle memory, right, it allows you to then process other information while you're doing what's in muscle memory, is my guess. I don't know the science behind that, but that makes a lot of sense to me.
I'm just curious because it really, the routine actually is one of the times that I do get to explore that side.
Sure, that makes
more
sense.
than almost any other time.
Makes a ton of sense.
In writing the book, a lot of the thoughts came while I was on a walk, while I was at a gym. A lot of ideas came, doing. Sometimes I'm listening to a podcast walking, but I'm not really listening. My brain is
I know people
somewhere
that
else.
listen to podcasts in the shower, and like I was thinking to myself, like that'd be a great time to listen to audiobook or podcast, but I don't do that because I'm actually processing other information. And if you've ever tried to process information, two things at the same time, like listening to a book while you're writing a letter, you can't. I mean,
Right.
there's a reason it doesn't happen.
Okay. I'm just curious because I never really thought about it from that.
This is why I love
perspective.
deep search with OpenAI, because I can go have it solve a problem, and it's doing all the reasoning, thinking, searching, whatever, and I can go to the next. No, sorry.
All right. I took it seriously because I do this routinely, by the way. I give AI something, I have it do it, and then I go
I do
check
too.
emails
Yeah,
or
for
whatever
sure.
and
Yeah.
come back to it. Yeah.
But I think the point is that when anyone says I'm multitasking, the truth is you're not, because you can't. You can task switch, and that task switching has a context cost, and that context cost, according to research that I've read, is 35 to 60% or more, depending on how much context you're loading up each time you switch. And those switches can happen like in milliseconds. So you can seem like you're doing two things at once, but the truth is you're task switching back and forth if you're processing information, and there's a cost to it. And so I make no value judgment about whether you should or shouldn't do it, but let's be just open about what's really happening. And so,
Well, and that I think it varies greatly person to person. I know even me, I was on a middle of a 3, 5, 7 day fast, some ridiculous fast I was doing one time. And in the middle of it, I'm usually very good at somebody would come in, pop in, ask me a question, and I would go back to work and I could get back in fully engrossed very quickly.
yep.
All of a sudden in the middle of this fast, somebody would come ask me a question. I'd be like, wait, hold on, slow down, repeat that. And then I would go back to my task, and it was really hard for me in that state for whatever reason to I think I had more mental clarity while I was fasting. However, I wasn't able to switch tasks as fluidly as I usually
We were on
do.
a call yesterday with a third person, and I said, let me take a
Yes.
note. And I was writing a note, and they're like, hey, while you're doing that, I was like, hey, man, I can't pay attention to you
Right.
and write this note
Yeah.
because I'm processing information.
Yeah.
And there was some reaction that was funny that I can't remember the exact reaction, but
Yeah.
because I wasn't paying attention to that, I was paying attention to the note I
Right.
was taking for the benefit of the
Right.
conversation. And I just try to get really clear about, like, I can't process two things at once, and I'm not going to try. And anybody who thinks they can, they're task switching back and forth. And I try to just I don't want to spend the extra energy on context switching where it's unnecessary.
All right, so I took us down this rabbit trail. Let's go back to routine. What?
Well, that is my routine. My routine is to try to get done what I'm doing at the time, right?
Okay.
I was doing it to you.
All right.
Sorry.
Morning routine. I have some things I try to do. Like I literally have a checklist of things that I try to get done in the morning. Do you have anything like that?
From a young age, like I'm thinking about like high school in particular, like I rolled out of bed and I was working out. We were generally in the water by 5:30 in the morning. And so I kind of learned to just have a really scheduled like start to the day. And so even today, like I have friends of mine who will wake up and they'll read and they'll journal. And I have a little bit of jealousy because I don't have that system built for me. Like I need to jump straight into like a workout or a shower or a meeting or something that is like a structured start to the day versus an unstructured start to the day. And then I do things like reading, journaling other times throughout the day. But I need to have a structured, scheduled kind of start to that routine, which I know a lot of the morning routine people would say is crazy. I can still get more work done before noon than a lot of people get done in a day or a week or whatever. I can still work hard and but it's a much more rigid scheduled thing. And I think that's as a function of when I was creating schedules early in my life. At some point as I move toward a different phase of my career, it may become really important for me to rethink that. And I've, for the last couple of years, thought through like, what would it be like if I didn't actually talk to anybody or schedule anything before 10 a.m., but it would require a new set of muscles. And so I'm being thoughtful about that now because I want that to be a part of my life, maybe 10 or 15 years from now. But I recognize that it's going to be a departure from what I've done for the last, let's call it 35 years.
Yeah. What about other parts of the day? You mentioned you do stuff later. So what are the routines? I mean, it don't have to be morning, right?
Yeah, I think routines, a lot of places talk about habit stacking. So if you want to start something new that's small, you stack it on top of a habit that you already have. And so I can't even tell you the number of things I've attached to brushing my teeth as habits in my life, right? Taking supplements, taking medicine, My next one's going to be facial moisturizer that I don't use today that is probably prudent for a guy of my age and putting sunscreen on every day. I'll attach that to brushing my teeth because I do that consistently at the same time. And so habit stacking is a really common way to add new habits to old habits. And finding, I think James Cleary called it like an environmental trigger in his book, Atomic Habits, right? And so if one of your other habits is one of those triggers, it can be really powerful to help you build positive habits.
What about journaling? This is
Yeah.
one a lot of people challenge. What's your do you have a routine with, and for me, I know sometimes I have a routine and then I don't have a routine
Yeah.
and then I do and I do. That's a hard one for me to consistently stick on.
So journaling to me is a tool and like a mental model for moving in a direction. And so there are times I journal every day very consistently. And then there are periods where the journaling is less consistent, and it's based on what deliberate movements I'm trying to make. And so I think there's seasons in our life. And I know people that swear by journaling every day, all day, like not all day literally, but like they think that journaling is an important part of every day for decades at a time, and more power to them. That's amazing. I'm glad they can do that. I wish I could do that. And they'll probably tell me why I can and I'm not. And I'll probably get all kinds of love letters for saying this. But I think that journaling is a really powerful tool for people in a period of change. And so, as you know, I wrote a journal for me, and I've shared it with lots of people, that's really simple. I joke that it's like Mad Libs for journaling. It's fill in the blank. It takes 2 to 3 minutes, and it gets people hyper disciplined, and it really helps when people are going through periods of change in particular. And then I use that journal to write in for other things. So I'm opening that journal every day. I just don't always follow the exact same process.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And I use that journal as well. And I've used it at different, sometimes for 6 months I journaled 5, 6, 7 days a week. And sometimes
I'll journal every day.
Sometimes I go 3 months without journaling, and sometimes, I've been anywhere in between. So.
Yeah, I use that journal every day, but I don't want to be like disingenuous. Like some days I use it as a blank piece of paper to write down the 3 things I want to get done, or to write down the person I told them I'd call them back so I don't forget that. And I may miss the Mad Libs part of it and just use it as the like checklist of things that I promised I would give people that I don't want to miss. And so I don't want to. I think people have a really good look at like, what do they say? Facebook is like the front lawn of your life. And I want people to be able to see the inside of the house and the backyard where it's not so pretty.
Right.
And so, yeah, I have this great journal. It's amazing, but sometimes it's just a really fancy piece of paper that I write down the things I promised people I would do today so I don't forget them.
Yeah. So
I forgot yesterday to get the groceries, and I told my wife I'd get them. We live in a building that has a doorman and groceries, whatever. And so I walked past the groceries twice before I got them the third time because I didn't write it down in my journal.
Yeah.
And so that was pretty funny.
Okay.
Failure.
So I'm just thinking, so I have a checklist, right?
Yeah.
And my checklist is, I've had a lot of back problems.
Yep.
And I use this psoas stretching tool that I find unbelievable, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's part of my list every day, is doing that along with some other back exercises.
How long have you been using that tool?
Call it 2 years, 3 years.
And every day?
So when I first got it and I was first introduced to it, I used it every day, and it worked so amazingly well that my back pain that I'd been struggling with for 30 plus years went away. And then I just was like, oh, I don't really need it. Well, the truth is now, if I did it probably 3 days a week, it would be effective. But sometimes what I do is, like lately for the last few weeks, I've been doing it actually twice a day, morning and night. And I've been trying to do it right before I sleep, which has helped my sleep some. I think doing it right before I sleep instead of in the morning also, which has become part of a new routine. But it's one of those things where I'm a little bit, until the last couple of weeks, using it. I'm like, oh, my back's starting to hurt again. And then I use it to stretch out my psoases and get that back.
Yeah, a super cool book, right? Like the Atomic Habits, James Cleary, he talks about the reward of the habit. And so like if you're doing something that made you feel better, but then it doesn't make you feel different anymore because you already think you feel better, the reward goes away. And so Kirkpatrick is a guy who does work on adult learning, and he talks about knowledge application skill habit. Like, so you have the knowledge of this thing, you know how to apply this thing, you have the skill of using it, but it hasn't turned into a real habit yet because maybe because the reward isn't enough to keep you coming back. It's a real interesting like mini case study on what drives habit. Like there's pain and pleasure, right? So it's what you've just described is like a really interesting pain pleasure case study.
Yeah.
Lots of pain. I create a habit that maybe habit, and then once the pain goes away, and I'm actually just working toward, reduction of pain or future pain or pleasure, or like I stop. Like I don't know. I find that super interesting.
Well, I think when I first started using it, my back would hurt.
Yeah.
And you're like, hey, dummy, you can make the back pain go away.
I get it. Yeah.
Get on here and do it. And
Yeah.
then when the back pain, when you've done it so much that you've loosened up the psoas,
Yeah.
it is, you just stop thinking about it.
You should put the link on the
you
stretcher. Looks awesome. We'll put a link in the show notes so you can see what stretcher it is.
It's on the website, talesofabundance.com.
Yeah.
It is on there.
Yeah.
It's $40 or something on Amazon. And
Yeah.
I'm telling you, if you have back pain, start with this thing. I wish I would have found it 30 years earlier. I could have saved a zillion chiropractor and doctor visits.
Your mileage may vary. Maybe it's your psoas, maybe it's not. But if it is,
Right. But I would, for $40, I would try it.
Yeah, sure.
It's cheaper than one visit. So I've got that. I've got a part of something I do called priming. This has been really helpful. This is a Tony Robbins thing. I think it's free, Tony Robbins /priming. It's about a 12-minute exercise that's a combination of prayer, meditation, light calisthenics. It kind of gets blood, and there's, it's typical gratitude exercises.
Love it.
Which is part of the journal. And it's just, it's a healing of the body, and it is focusing on what things you want to accomplish. A lot of the same stuff that's in your journal, that's really good. I've been trying to do breathing exercises. I've added in these stretches for my back. I've got at least 15 minutes of movement every day. So it could be as simple as I just go walk around the yard for 15 minutes. I try to do more, but at a bare minimum, it's 15 minutes. I'm forgetting one or two things, but then I try to have some kind of resistance weight training 3 times a week minimum. And it's, reading. That reading has been, I'm trying to get back into consistently reading every day. And those are all great. Those are things that make me feel better, and I think give me a better, happier life.
I love it. Does priming stand for something, or just what he calls it?
It's just what he calls it.
It's cool.
It's a great. I've tried a lot of different things. This is the one that is. I
just heard prayer, meditation, reading, exercise. I was looking for the R in the I, because you know me, I love acronyms that you hate.
Yes, correct.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Prayer, reading. I'm not sure what I would be. Meditation, exercise, reading again. I don't know.
We hate acronyms. That's our show stance. We hate acronyms.
Oh, is that okay?
That's
so
a show stance.
Randy
You didn't
hates
get
them.
that memo.
John loves them. Randy hates them.
Right.
That means we hate them.
Yes, correct.
That's
yes.
fair.
As long as we understand the rules.
I can live with that. That's okay. Our rules. Got it. Okay.
Right. But yeah. But I think there's a lot of routines we have that we don't think about. I mean, for lots of people, it's going to church, whether it means Sunday or other nights or Bible study. For other people, it means this is the night that I go hang out with my friends. Or you used to do a thing on Sundays when you lived in the house, not downtown, and maybe but you used to have a thing where your house was just open every Sunday for anybody that wanted to come over. Yeah, from 2 to 7,
we just had a big Sunday fun day, and the open front door, and you just brought whatever you wanted to bring or whoever you wanted to bring. It was just an open door every Sunday.
Yeah. And that was I thought that was amazing. Like I came 2 or 3 times, I think, and it was one thing. It didn't necessarily fit our schedule the best, but I always enjoyed it. I always thought it was really cool where just people came and talked. And
one of my core values is deliberateness, and it's about making sure that I understand, like I choose the routines I want to choose, and then the routines that aren't serving me well, I can wring those out. And so we all have habits that are good habits, and most of us I have habits that are bad habits. And so, one of my bad habits is eating food that's put in front of me. Like, sometimes I'll just eat food when I'm not hungry, and that's a bad habit. Or sometimes I'll eat when I'm stressed as a way of coping with stress, and that's a bad habit because I'm not eating for the right reasons. And so I do think that people can look at their habits and decide how deliberate they want to be. And so the thing that I would tell people to do if they're interested in their routines is to take like a time and motion planner, and we can put one up on the website, talesofabundance.com, where it just has a week, and it's like a 15-minute slot every 15 minutes for the entire week. And you just keep that one piece of paper with you for 1 week only. You don't do this every week of the year, just 1 week only. And you just write down all the routines that you bump yourself into and all the things that interrupt you out of your patterns for the week. So you get an idea of what's causing you to do the routines you like, what routines are maybe ingrained that you maybe don't like, and then what's interrupting you from the important things in your life. And so I think it's like one routine I see people having is answering their phone when it rings just because it rang. And someone said to me once, like, your phone, that thing that goes off when your phone is ringing, that's a signal, not an alarm.
Yeah.
And so I think having a habit tracker that you can say for a week, like, and then you figure out like what's serving me, what's not serving me.
Yeah. Yeah, that's an interesting one. It kind of brings a smile on my face because I remember, especially like when the kids were in high school, a lot of times my phone would be left in the other room or on my desk, and we'd be eating dinner and my phone would be ringing and I'd ignore it. And the youngest, Ryland in particular, you could tell he'd look at me and I'd ignore it and he'd look at me and he'd be like, your phone is ringing. And I'm like, yeah. He's like, aren't you going to answer it? I'm like, no. And it was incomprehensible to him that it was okay to let my phone ring, and me, not only was I not answering, I wasn't even looking to see who it was.
Yeah, my kids got the memo on that one for you. Like, I call my kids, they'll like call me back maybe.
Yeah.
I called one of them, spring break, he was with his mom, divorced in different households, and I called him on spring break, and 2 days later, kid hadn't called me back. I was like, I was wanting to see how long it would go, then I couldn't wait any longer. And I was like, hey man, I called you. Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Teenager.
Yeah. Well, mine is I'm going to check it after dinner, but
yeah, sure.
But there's a great thing that, I think I would like to look at it more from the creating good routines. And the routine is, I think the healthier routine is you don't answer the phone during dinner. You don't look at your phone during dinner. Like for me, leaving it in the other room or just turning it off and not answering them, I would like that to be the habit or that to be the routine, not to have the phone controlling us, that the phone rings and I have to answer it.
I think for me, the thing I would offer to listeners is, first of all, know what your good and bad routines are. And then don't try to fix everything at once. Like just fix one or two at a time. And then when you're building a new routine, stack those habits and then start with best practices. Like if you have a habit that you want to implement, like don't just start from scratch. Go see who's done it before. We talked about James Cleary and Tony Robbins and Kirkpatrick, and we've got some tools at talesofabundance.com. Like whatever it is, just don't start from the ground up. Like figure out what, where's the frontier of knowledge, and then jump off from that point so that you don't have to do all the work that people have done for decades or centuries before you. Journaling's been a habit for ever. I mean, I still read Marcus Aurelius's journal called Meditations about Stoicism.
Yeah.
I'm looking up Meditations to see when it was written, but let's see, when was Meditations?
A couple thousand years ago.
Yeah, I think it was a while ago, right? I'm
going to round off to the closest 1,000 years and say 2,000 years.
Dude, you nailed it. It was written between 2,200 years ago, give or take. Yeah. Dude, nice work. Well, I thought it was like 400. I didn't realize it was 170 AD.
I mean, it's Roman history. We kind of have a pretty good idea of when a lot of that happened. I mean, I know it went on. I mean, the Roman Empire didn't really fall till I think around 1,000 or maybe even after 1,000.
All I'm telling you is I was off by 400 or 500 years, and you nailed it.
All right. Well, it's pretty easy when you round to the nearest 1,000.
I'm just saying high five. Good job.
All right. I'm going to get better at taking compliments, so good job, me.
Yeah. See, it was a new habit we can work on.
There we go.
Yeah, it's good.
It is. So what happens? Okay. Sometimes I've had habits where I have tried to get. So one of the habits, I think I've talked about it on the show before, is asking God, the universe, energy, love, I don't care what you want to call it, whoever's listening, what, in my case, it's, what should I do today? How do I get to spread abundance in the world? And taking time every morning to do that. And that one has been very difficult for me. Now, I've added it to my stretching, my priming routine. I've been doing a good job of it very recently, but I have been struggling with this for 6 months or a year. And I feel like my days are better when I do it. But a lot of times I get up, the phone starts ringing, and I just get skipped. So what does somebody do when they just, they have the intention, they want to create a habit? It could be as simple as New Year's comes and they're like, I'm going to go to the gym 3 times a week. And then they go twice and they never go again.
Yeah.
It could be anything.
In the medical practice, we talk a lot about small, sustainable changes. So the first thing is make sure that whatever it is that you're doing is a small enough change that it is sustainable versus like, I'm going to change my whole life. Like, and people may want to do that and are successful at doing that sometimes. But on the clinical side, we tell people like, let's make small changes. I think that's one thing. And then I really appreciate what Cleary had to say about this in Atomic Habits, right? He talks about designing your environment to like cue the triggered behavior that you want to have. And then he goes in, he talks about creating a positive association. So you're getting that positive association. He calls it, I think, craving, and then making it easy to start and then making it rewarding. Like he's really clear about that in the book. And I think that when you talk about small changes that you're that thoughtful about, it becomes much easier to see the momentum and then keep the momentum. And then when you bump into the SOAS thing you're talking about, making sure there's a reason to keep it going.
Yeah.
Like and evaluating that, because sometimes you want to have it for a season, sometimes you want it longer than a season. Like brushing my teeth is a lifelong event for me. Like I'm going to do that my whole life. Learning is a lifelong thing for me. Like I'm going to do that my whole life. There are other things that I just haven't been able to get going. Spanish, learning Spanish has been one that it's at some point I will learn Spanish, but hasn't been important enough to me yet. And so I've got to go sort that. Learning guitar. I'd love to learn guitar, but not enough to actually make it a habit.
Yeah. I think this applies to all the 5 F's, right? I mean, one of the other simple ones is, a basic money accumulation, management, wealth building skill is to take a certain amount of your income and invest it, right?
Yeah, I don't call that one a habit, man, because all you have to do is automate it. And once it's automated, it's not your habit. It's just done. Like I can just have the bank move my money to another place.
Fair enough.
So I don't think that's really I think it's something you have to decide to do. I think you can automate it out of your life so you don't have to worry about the habit. But I think that can be as simple as making a choice.
That's a fairly new choice, but look, this is something I've known my entire life, right? Is
Totally
you take X amount.
Yeah.
And for most of my life, I didn't do it. It was one of those, kind of like the person I'll start going to the gym next week or whatever, right?
Yeah.
And you're right. I now have it automated.
Yeah.
And every time that money hits my account, a certain amount goes into,
And by the way, my suggestion would be automate anything you can so you don't have to make it a habit.
Right.
Like I think that there's a real value in finding automation or delegation or, so I think there's things in my life that I don't do. And whether I don't do them because I just am not going to do them, or I found someone else to delegate them to, whatever the case may be, like part of it is just knowing what's really important to you. And so I went through a list, my 20s for the first time, and I do this exercise pretty regularly. It's like I go write down all the things I want, habits, things, whatever, and then I write down why. And a lot of times the answer is just no, not worth the effort. I'll give you this is going to sound really first world problem-y, but my wife and I have talked about do we want to have a second home? And right now there's no place that draws me enough to it. And everyone I've talked to that has a second home feels some connection, like they have to go there versus traveling somewhere else. And my wife and I enjoy traveling. And so it's just not like our habit around travel is going to be to travel where we want to travel, not to go to a second home. Now, when our kids have kids and we want to be around family more, that may change. But I think that's true for exercise. Like I didn't ever want to go to the gym until health became really, really important to me. And then I found a different reason to go to the gym than I'd had previous to that. And then I found a way to make it enjoyable. I found a way for my environment to support that. All the things Cleary talks about for sure. And then it's become a thing that's becoming a habit for me after the last 15 months. But I wouldn't say I've got it locked in like in the way that you do, for example, even though I worked out twice a day for years of my life.
Yeah. Well, it's working on it, right? And how do you make it fun? I mean, that's been one of the challenges for the gym. It used to be, I played football multiple days a week. I played basketball.
Yeah.
And I looked forward to going to playing football or basketball.
I have an accountability partner there. Like I've got someone who shows up in the gym and I know that if I don't show up, they're going to be there. And it's like, I'm not willing to put up with so I think that's a big part of it. And then I'm also able to see the results in a way that are really meaningful for me. So I set out some really clear, and for me, as I get older, it's like, I want to be more mobile, like joints and muscles. So mobility is really important. Balance is important. and then strength is important. And so as you age, those three things are kind of the most important factors as understood, and so like falling is the number one risk for people dying as they get older and older and older. And so these are the things that kind of offset some of that. I'm doing handstands now in the gym. I haven't done a handstand since I was in my 20s. But in order for me to
there'll be video of that at talesofabundance.com.
I have a video. It is really underwhelming. It will inspire you to know how it is. I am uninspiring to inspire you. I set the bar very low. But yeah, so I think, and then for me, it's about few habits, right? Like I want to have lots of habits, but good habits, and I want to get rid of bad habits. But I try to give myself a lot of grace to not overdo it. And so as I work with clients and we work through some of these things, it's always about how do we lighten the load, lighten the lift, not because we're trying to take the easy road or the shortcut, but because we want to make sure we have like highest return on energy expended.
Yeah. And I'm thinking, I keep getting the fun going through my brain. That's anything we can do to make it fun is,
or at least rewarding.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. And you've done a great job of this for a long time, Randy. Like I think about like just the way that you have some of your habits. I mean, there's places we've talked about where you want to make them better, but some of the habits you have are long lasting, really healthy. And then I think we both have a list of habits that were so good and so healthy for us that we stopped doing them, which is embarrassing for me.
And, so but even I'm thinking that instead of doing research or learning about something online, I prefer to go to a meetup or a group if I can find a group of interesting people.
Yeah, it's about knowing how you learn, yeah.
And, instead of, reading articles about Bitcoin was like, not even as much as I liked it, it wasn't that exciting, but then going to a meetup and meeting like-minded people and it was more social, all of a sudden I was like, oh, this is a lot more fun.
I learn much better in that environment too, by the way. Yeah. I just do.
And it's more sustainable and you look forward to it instead of it feeling like a chore.
Well, it's an environmental thing too. Like again, back to Clear's thing, like getting your environment to trigger the behavior. Like if you've got a meetup at 7:00 on Tuesday mornings, like you're going to show up because 25 people expect you there,
right?
Versus like, I'm going to get up at 7:00 and read about Bitcoin. Like it's just, especially if you went to bed, late because one of the kids was sick and you didn't get the number of hours of sleep you want. It's just so easy to hit the snooze button or change the alarm setting versus 25 people are counting on me.
Right.
I think there's something to that. So I think part of the environment for me is getting people involved. And so I think when you can get people involved in your habits that you're changing, that can be really helpful.
Yeah. All right. I think we've beat this one up pretty good. You got anything you want to add?
I mean, we'll put a PDF of the journal up on the website. We'll put instructions on how to use it if you want to download it, and give us some feedback. Let us know what's working and not working for you. And I think another time we can talk about affinity groups and how to start affinity groups for community, making friends as we come up, and what it's like to build a community very deliberately around you, not from a transactional perspective, but from a relational perspective. As we get into those topics, I think habits and relationships, there's a lot of things where they support one another really, really well, and we can kind of maybe pull the curtain back on some of the affinity group work we've done over the last 15 years, and how important that's been for us.
Fantastic.
Cool.
Well, thanks, John. Thanks, listeners. As always, we definitely appreciate the support. Check us out at talesofabundance.com. Download on your favorite podcast app, player, whatever. Give us 5 stars. Tell your friends. Tell your family. Tell people you don't like. We don't care. Just bring people that want to.
Yeah, we're on social media too now. Check us out on social media.
Yeah, Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, whatever else you use on social media. But the support is greatly appreciated, and hoping everybody has a wonderful day.
Why settle for less?
Yeah.
Thanks, Randy.
Bye.